Hi everyone, it's your favourite Atomic Blonde here with a bit of just general pop chat. How are you all doing? Haven't done one of these in a while. They've all kind of been specials and movie reviews and specific shows. So I thought I'd just sort of jump on and have just a bit of a general chat about a couple of shows and a bit of news, I suppose. So the first thing I thought, just jump on and have a chat about, and followers to this channel will know I was really looking forward to this. So Paradise season 2 on Hulu. I can actually say that now. We actually have Hulu here in the UK. Unfortunately, it's still part of Disney Plus, so I was going to cancel my Disney Plus and get rid of it, and then they give us Hulu, so it's like, anyways, I digress. So you can go check out the review of Paradise season 1 on the channel. I really, really loved season 1. Going to be some spoilers here. It did come out, I think, 2 years ago, so But the whole premise of season 1 is we open up. There is this sort of small town America, but the president of the United States is sort of living there. And it opens up basically with the president's been murdered, and it's a bit of a sort of a whodunit initially, almost a bit of a procedural. You've got his security guards, and this guy. Obviously, there's cameras everywhere. How has this happened? But over the course of the show, and this is kind of the spoilers, guys. So we actually, not all is what it seems, and as the show unravels. And it's sort of flashbacks, and it's the same sort of in season 2. There's flashbacks as kind of what's led up to this event. But what we find out is that a sort of global catastrophe was being predicted, that there was going to be this super volcano eruption, and pretty much everybody on the surface of the earth was going to die, because there's going to be so much ash in the atmosphere that it blocks out the sunlight. No one's going to be able to survive it. So one of the sort of government advisors, whose code name is Sinatra, she convinces the president that we need to take this seriously. Something's going to happen, and I need unlimited resources, and we need to go build this sort of bunker shelter. And they basically they do this, and where we see where they're all living, even though it looks like they're outdoors, this is this sort of big, almost in a dome underground, and it's a false sky and false atmosphere. So what looks like is a town that's sort of outside is actually deep underground. And so many thousand people were selected from across America that would make it into this bunker. So we've kind of got this twofold thing happening, that the president, who was the president of the United States, he was and obviously he was taken to the bunker with his vice president and the various members of his cabinet, and the Secret Service agents. And we've got this whole story that the Secret Service agent Xavier, who's been with the president quite some time, and again you find out there's his sort of backstory and how he ends up being on the president's detail. He's there with his kids, and we find out he was married. And she was away on business in I think Atlanta it was, but her plane, she couldn't get to her plane, and she couldn't get to the bunker in time. So he believes that she's died outside, and he's there with his kids, and he's struggling with grief and looking after his kids. His boss and friends just been murdered, so he's trying to investigate who's killed his friend. You've got this character Sinatra, that we find out that she had this sort of prestigious company, but one of her children dies. I think it was cancer, but this really sort of traumatizes her, and she doesn't quite recover from it, and that's driving a lot of her actions. But she's sort of just tied up in so many secrets, and she's brought some shady people into the bunker who are kind of doing her bidding. So is it one of these people that's killed the president? And by the end of the season, the reason the president was killed is that they've received some transmissions from the surface, and one of them is Xavier's wife, basically saying, "Hey, there's survivors, we're alive, and this is where we are." And basically Xavier sort of tries to expose this and like this whole kind of conspiracy. And he basically decides to leave and go and find his wife, and other members of the Secret Service stuff manage to cover for him and look after his kids so he can go. And that's basically where season 1 ended. So season 2 opened up quite differently. So we kind of like had this sort of this cliffhanger, and they completely ignored it in the first few episodes. It was like, what's going on? So we were introduced to a new character. This was the introduction of what's her name? Charlene from Divergent. Oh, I should know her name, shouldn't I? Yeah. Paradise. As you know, I'm always rubbish at this. I should prep beforehand, shouldn't I? Oh dear. Sorry. So we introduced character Annie, played by Charlene. If I could find her surname, that would be really, really helpful. Oh, I feel an edit coming on. Shailene Woodley. Oh, okay. So Shailene Woodley's introduced, and we sort of see her. First of all, when she's sort of like a teenager, looking after her mum, who's ill. Clearly, she's sort of her mum's carer. And then she sort of comes home, and she kind of, like most teenagers would, she kind of resents it a bit, but she clearly loves her mum. But then she comes home one day and her mum's just passed away in the chair, and this is kind of sort of traumatized her. But then we sort of flash forward to her being older, and she's training as a doctor. But the problem is, every time she's trying to do a diagnosis, and she sort of sees something and it triggers her, and she kind of gets this flashback to her dead mum, and sort of has this panic attack. So she basically walks away from being a doctor. And her mum was this huge Elvis fan, so she's gone to Graceland, and she's crying, and she's not even quite sure why she's there. And the sort of security guard comes over and says to her, like, you can't park here, like, you've got to move on. And she's sort of like, oh, I've lost my job, I lost my mum, I don't know what I'm going to do. And she basically just turns around and says to her, well, there's a job going here for doing tours. And then you sort of flash forward that she's taken this job and she's thriving and she's really enjoying it. And then we cut to the event, and obviously people's phones are all going, and there's an alert, and she with the security guard who helped her get the job, they're now really close friends. They grab a load of stuff, rush into Graceland, and the event happens. Obviously they lose all power, and unfortunately her friend, security guard, falls down the stairs and badly breaks her leg, which ends up in her about a month or so later dying through infection and such. And it kind of cuts forward to like 2 or 3 years, and she's basically been on her own this whole time. But she's sort of and eventually the sun comes out, because obviously the ash has been covering the sky, and it's like sub-zero temperatures, but she's managed to survive. And then eventually the sun comes out, which wasn't predicted to happen, not certainly not this soon. So then she's able to start growing food and looking after herself. And then one day this group of men turns up. So obviously initially she's like terrified. I mean, you're kind of living in this sort of post-apocalyptic landscape. She's not spoken or really ventures out in years. And they come into Graceland, basically just looking for somewhere to sort of stay and shelter. And it transpires that basically these are a group of good guys, all kind of nerds and doctors, and they were like teachers and scientists, and they're trying to get. They've heard about this rumor about this underground bunker, but also they're going across the country, shutting down nuclear power stations and things like that to make sure they don't go into meltdown. The sort of leader of these is this guy called Link. This young lad, very like this sort of scientist, and he was working with somebody else, and he ends up having a kind of pretty much a one-night stand with Annie, but he doesn't view it that way. He wanted Annie to go with them, and she said she would, and then she basically backs out, and Annie ends up pregnant. So all this sort of happens in like the sort of first 2 episodes. By the 3rd episode, we finally find out what happened to Xavier, and he's caught in like this hailstorm which damages his plane. He ends up crashing, and this group of kids find him and kind of explains, and eventually he ends up kind of Annie finds him, and she takes him back to Graceland and nurses him back to health because he obviously was injured. They sort of set off, and he's like, I've got to get to Atlanta, I'm trying to find my wife. And she's like, no, you're going to take me to Colorado where this bunker is, because that's where Link's heading. And he's like, no, we're going to Atlanta, and then once I've got my wife, then then we'll go back together. So en route, she kind of goes into labor, and they pass some people kind of on this road, and he has to run to them to get help, and she's still very like, don't trust anybody, you can't trust anybody. And he's like, well, I've got no choice but to trust them, you're in labor. And they end up coming, and again, they turn out to be good people, but unfortunately she successfully has the baby and has a daughter. Shocker. But there's complications after the birth, and she passes away. And this is kind of where we've got to. The other thing we find out is that there's power being siphoned off at the bunker by Sinatra, and nobody knows why. And all they keep talking about is this sort of Project Alex. And this is for me where season 2 is like really sort of kicked up a level. So even though we had an element of sci-fi kind of in the first season with this sort of underground bunker, what we learn is that she wants to buy this company off this scientist. And this is a scientist that Link was working for, and he's saying like, this guy is brilliant, he's like so clever, he's going to save the future. And this sort of weird scenario of events happens, and basically Sinatra's like if you won't sell the company, take it by any means possible, because we have to have the technology for this bunker. And basically what it's starting to allude to, or what it looks like it's alluding to, could be completely wrong, but also seems like a bit of speculation online, is that the technology that's been created, or this Project Alex that's running, is either some sort of parallel worlds or time travel. And because Xavier starts having these sort of waking visions where he sees Link, and Link's seeing Xavier, but they've never met. And we're like, well, how is that possible? Unless maybe it's a different reality, or is it the future? So and sort of reality seems to be fracturing. So is it something to do with this Project Alex, and the whole thing that the scientist explains what his company does, and sort of like quantum mechanics and all this great gobbledygook stuff. And it's really interesting like where it's going. So the first season was like kind of this whodunit procedural, but season 2 really is sort of kicking into like there's something much bigger going on here. So is Sinatra trying to move them to a reality where the event never happened, or is she trying to go back and prevent the event from happening, or is she just trying to look to save her son that died? There's multiple things and speculation that's going on, but it's going in a really interesting direction. And it was such a bold choice, I think, to open the season not picking up on the cliffhanger of last season, introducing this world of other characters. You got a great actress like, say, Charlene, and then just kill her off. And it was like very and done in a well way. And the thing I really love about this show is the characters are very well written. It's character led. It's not like, you know, as I talk a lot on this show, like contrivance, and to get from A to B. They're taking real time. And I think some of the criticisms that people have is that sometimes they feel it's a little bit slow. I personally don't, because it actually gives time for the show to breathe and for you to understand the motivations of these characters and what's the relationships and what's happening, and doing that world building, because it's not a massively complicated story per se, but there's all these little bits that you then later on down the line, you know, it's proper set up and payoff stuff that you kind of go, oh, okay, so that's what that meant, or that's what that is. Because it's like, even in this one, you kind of like, it's like, they just ask like, how's Alex? And then we actually sort of like alludes to that this is actually a project. It's not a person, or is it? We don't know. So the direction it's going in is something I really hadn't expected at all. With this kind of maybe sort of time travel, dimensions, parallel universes, don't know. And at the moment, it feels like the person writing it is clever enough to pull this off based on everything else we've seen. So I'm really pleasantly surprised with where season 2 is going. I highly recommend you watch this show. Sorry if I've just completely ruined it for you. But it's a fantastic show, and obviously I've left a lot of bits out, and the storyline and how they find out about, you know, what happened to the president is definitely still worth going to watch. It's completely unlike anything else really you get on Disney Plus / Hulu. It's cleverly written, well acted, character driven. I'm really enjoying this show. I just, again, like as always, I hope they can stick the landing. I was very nervous going into season 2. You would get so many good season 1s and it just goes off a cliff. We're on episode 4 right now. It drops on a Monday here in the UK, so I assume it's the same in the States. It's either going to be Sunday, Monday morning, or Monday. I think Disney tends to be the same day. Drops weekly. Really suggest you go catch up. And say I just hope season 2 sticks the landing as well. But so far, so good. It's such an interesting show. The pacing won't be for everybody. Like I say, I personally don't find it slow, but if you just kind of want action, it isn't going to be for you. You need a little bit of noddle. You need to pay attention. You need to think about it a little bit. And that's not for everybody. These days, it's not for most people. And I think season 2 is definitely a shift in pace. And because like the first one, because it was like, say, quite procedural, I think a lot of people liked it. I think it's still seems to be doing well in the sort of top 10 on Disney Plus. So hopefully people are liking season 2 as well. But it's just nice to have something different. Season 2, when you're watching it, it's almost like I know it's a little bit like, you know, X-Files meets The Walking Dead without the zombies. If you imagine like the Walking Dead episodes where you haven't really got the zombies, it's just people trying to survive. It's kind of got a little bit of that vibe. And, you know, there's pockets of good people, there's pockets of bad people. It's kind of got that sort of vibe to it, but you've then got this sort of science fiction overlay and this sort of procedural, like there's all these sort of political, because it's like a capsule. This underground bunker is like capsule of the old world. It's still got all the old world's problems with all the politics and everybody trying to shaft everybody else. So you've got all these different dynamics going on. Really, really interesting. So I'd love to know what you think of Paradise. Pop it in the chat. Are you enjoying it? Have you watched it? Are you planning on watching it? But I really, really recommend this show if you like your sort of intellectual sci-fi. Like if you're a fan of like X-Files, things like that, I think this would definitely be for you. So talking of sort of sci-fi, oh gosh, I mean, Starfleet Academy seems to have put the final nail in the coffin for Star Trek. There's sort of rumors ahoy. You know, there's an article that came out, or it's very much, you know, sort of saying, you know, this is the first time in I think over a decade, I think they say, yeah, first time in over a decade, there is no Star Trek TV in production or even greenlit, which I don't think anybody who's been, you know, had the misfortune to watch Kurtzman Trek is remotely shocked by, to be honest. Just scooting down, yeah, so since November 2015, you know, we had Discovery. Season 1, I didn't mind a Discovery. It wasn't great, but, you know, it was still watchable. And then season 2, I mean, I did like the sort of, you know, the mirror universe aspect of it. But obviously Michael Burnham just wasn't a likable character from the jump. You know, she over the course like 5 years, I mean, she caused what, 2 wars. She's like killed, that got a captain killed. She, you know, committed mutiny, all this kind of stuff. And she basically gets, because it's modern morality, you know, she gets rewarded by being made captain and given the ship, right? So whatever. It's just sure. And everything is just, you know, the CW had some eye rolling moments, but Kurtzman was literally hold my beer and has just taken like the sort of the tail end of the CW. The beginning of the CW was fairly solid, you know, but by the end of it, you know, with the Batwoman and all those kind of things going on. And, you know, this is like that on another level of bad. The only thing out of that, I think, like most, I mean, I couldn't, I know a lot of people liked the first season of Strange New Worlds. I couldn't get into it. For me, the sort of writing was on the wall, and the only thing I've really enjoyed out of any of this, like a lot of people, was Picard season 3. I've got the Steelbook. You know, I really enjoyed that show. Was it perfect? No, because Terry Matalas had to work within the confines of the rubbish framework he'd inherited from Picard seasons 1 and 2, i.e. Picard's now a robot, you know, with Picard's consciousness, all that kind of nonsense. But, you know, we basically got this bottle season. He had no money, managed to bring back, you know, the TNG cast, and we got the Enterprise D. I mean, come on. I mean, and that season charted, that season won awards. And, you know, the reward for Terry Matalas doing that was basically he was pushed out by Kurtzman. You know, Kurtzman was just shown to be the hack that he is. He's now obviously gone over to Marvel and is writing the Vision show, which I hope is as good as his other works. I love 12 Monkeys. I've got a review on the channel. Go watch that again. If you've not checked out 12 Monkeys, the TV show, highly recommend. Again, sort of it's real timey-wimey stuff, but thoroughly enjoyed it. It's a great show. Yeah, so now we're at this point. Obviously, we've got the whole Skydance Paramount thing going on. You know, nobody's really saying anything. There's lots of rumors and insiders saying, like, you know, Kurtzman's done, or basically, you know, they're offering him a deal, but it's so unpalatable that he's never going to go for it. And at the end of the day, you know, he's made his money. I've heard that he's like made about $100 million personally out of rolling out this tosh. So if he doesn't need to work again in Hollywood, and I don't think, I mean, anybody that pays him probably end up at Disney, to be fair, but, you know, anybody that pays this man deserves everything they get. You know, the only reason we got Picard season 3 is because Kurtzman was getting a bit bored and he went off to do Clarice, which bombed, and he also done The Man That Fell to Earth, which bombed. You know, the only thing he ever really did that was successful with him and JJ was Fringe, which is a great show. I remember watching it at the time, but, you know, nobody knew who really JJ was. I think it was off the back of doing Alias, which I didn't watch. And, you know, I wasn't until years later that I kind of realized that it was a JJ thing. And I was like, bloody hell, he can actually write if he wants to. And obviously, like, and again, when the first couple of Star Trek reboot films come out, I enjoyed them like most people, because I didn't sort of see it as Star Trek. It was just kind of this thing over here that was kind of lighthearted and fun. What harm could it do? Oh, if only we knew, right? It's like, oosh. But in one way, you know, it does give us the get out that we've got the Kelvin timeline, and you can kind of just bin everything that Kurtzman's done, saying it's the Kelvin timeline. We can go back to the primary timeline and, you know, continue from Voyager if we want to. So there's rumors that, again, rather than sort of looking forward, they're looking back and maybe doing a show with Scott Bakula as bringing back Archer as sort of the president of the Federation. So this is post the Federation being set up. So, you know, he's finished his tour on Enterprise, and now he's like sort of president, and all the trials and tribulations of setting up the Federation and all that kind of United Federation planets and all that kind of stuff, which could be interesting. But as a show, you know, Star Trek's always looked forward. It's always been pushing forward. So even though Starfleet Academy is supposed to be 1,000 years in the future, they just, for some reason, they all have 20th century political issues and vocabulary. Who knew? Like, all these things that were actually solved through Star Trek when it was written in the 60s all seem to be problems again in 1,000 years later. I just can't figure it out. But anyway, yeah. So, and obviously there's I think the guys who wrote Dungeons and Dragons apparently have been sort of signed up to write a new Star Trek film. Nothing to do with legacy characters, apparently all new cast. I think that's a brave thing to do. You're probably better off maybe starting with a TV show, getting established characters and maybe do a film. Don't know. I mean, but Star Trek, same as like Star Wars, Doctor Who, all of those kind of things have been absolutely, you know, burnt to the ground. The fans have all been told to go away. You know, we don't want you. This isn't made for you anymore. So all these studios and the BBC have got a massive mountain to climb. I mean, Doctor Who is supposedly getting a Christmas special this year. We had the nonsense of like Ncuti potentially regenerating into Rose Tyler. There's now like the Billy Piper and David Tennant. Neither of them are available to do a Christmas special, or the earliest they'll be available is in September. So if they are going to make anything, they're going to have to do it all pretty much lastminute.com, which isn't impossible because Capaldi's sort of last Christmas special, I think they've done in September, August, September time. Twice Upon a Time, which is I do actually like that story, apart from the fact he regenerates into you know who. So I always stop it before it gets to that point. But you know, apparently they're trying to get someone to play the Doctor, and nobody wants to touch it with a barge pole. You know, it's what we're starting to see happening with Marvel, that people didn't want to be in Marvel films anymore. It's like the kiss of death for their career. Hence why they kind of have to loop back and bring back all the classic characters, because they'll come back. You know, if somebody wants to pay you 20 million, why wouldn't you go back? But and also someone like, you know, Robert Downey, and that it's really not going to impact his career, right? He can still make whatever he wants to make, even if Doomsday's complete failure. That's not really going to reflect on him in any way, shape, or form. So, you know, all our sort of classic IPs are in the toilet. There's rumours abound in the UK that they want to now reboot Blake 7, which was a great show. I remember watching it growing up, sort of late 70s, early 80s in the UK. And, you know, it's very much about like fascist governments and shutting down free speech and free thought, which is more relevant now than ever. But what we always know is when they try and remake these things, they take all the wrong learnings from it, and completely bastardize what the message actually is and was, and try and shape it into the modern political landscape, and completely miss the point. So I can only dread how that's going to turn out. I think just like everybody else, and as I've said on this channel a lot, that a lot of the reason I go and watch a lot of horror films is because they're like original IPs, you know, cheap to make, but they're original. In the you know, we get more original horror films than we do any other kind of sort of genres, really, certainly in the theatre. So I just make something new. I mean, God, like, you know, you could write something, call it something else, and even say it's a homage to Blake Seven if you want, but don't stick a Blake Seven bloody label on it and then, you know, turn it into some horrible for the modern audience crap. Ugh. But we'll have to wait and see. With, you know, there's all shenanigans with the BBC because, as you know, we have to pay a license fee in the UK. But it can be £180 a year, which funds the BBC. So even if you don't watch the BBC and you watch any kind of live TV, so obviously we have other channels, you still have to pay the license fee. Obviously most people these days don't really watch live TV. It's probably the older population still watches the BBC, but I haven't watched the BBC in I don't know how long. You know, like most people, I watch YouTube, I watch Netflix, you know, the streaming, and that's probably most of the population these days. So a lot of people now are saying, I ain't paying it. I don't watch it. I'm not paying it. So now they're trying to come up with all different routes. I mean, they were trying to do a deal with Netflix. So if you have Netflix, you have to pay the license fee. Now they're talking about taxing us. So we have to pay a tax that will fund the BBC. So again, even if you don't watch it, you've still got to pay a tax to fund it. It's absolutely insane. I mean, people just say, like, you know, slap a subscription service on it and people who want to watch it will watch it. But the problem is most people won't want to watch it. That's the problem. That won't work. And then they're like, well, if it's a streaming service, then we can't really be impartial. Well, it's not impartial now anyway. That's why nobody bloody watches it. So just the state of our modern IPs and TV in general and films. That's why I'm so excited to go see Project Hail Mary next weekend. I'm really excited for that film. I cannot recommend the book enough. And if you get the chance to read the book or listen to the audio before you go watch it, because any adaptation, right, it's not going to have absolutely everything in it that's in the book because it's just too long, or direct adaptations sometimes just don't work on film. But I am so excited for that film. If it's a fraction of what the book is, it's going to be amazing. I was quite opposed to Ryan Gosling's casting initially. So I just didn't see the character looking like Ryan Gosling. You know, he's supposed to be this high school physics teacher. And you're just like, yeah, physics teachers don't look like Ryan Gosling generally. I had more of a John Hamm type sort of view of what his character looked like. But now I've seen the trailers, and you know, I'm eating my words a bit. I think, you know, he's definitely got that comedy element that you need that's in this book. So I'm much more open to Ryan Gosling being in it. And from the trailers, I mean, I think they're giving too much away in the trailers, but it looks, just from the trailers, it looks like it has the heart. So I'm really excited for that. Are you excited for that? Love to know if you're planning to go see Project Hail Mary. And when you do, what do you think, most importantly? And if you haven't read the book, will it inspire you to read the book? Let me know. Cool. Gosh, so yeah, The Beauty, again on Hulu. I think this is like based on a comic. I'm not sure, but we kind of got this concept of it opens up in a really intriguing way. So you kind of got this it's Paris Fashion Week. And we're introduced these couple of FBI agents who are there, and there's been this sort of weird spate of beautiful people going like completely psychotic, and it opens up with this sort of fashion show with this beautiful model coming down the catwalk, but she's like sort of sweating profusely, and she's looking around. She sees people with water, and then she just runs over and she's like drinking the water, like basically beating the crap out of people to take their water off them. And she ends up running out of the fashion show and running through the like streets of Paris and just, you know, attacking anybody to get this water. And eventually, like she gets run over and like her arm breaks, but then it kind of cracks back into position. It's all something really, really weird is going on, but she's absolutely like out of control. And she finally gets surrounded by the police, and they go to arrest her, and she basically explodes. It's pretty, yeah, it's pretty gory, this show. There's a lot of body horror, there's a lot of blood and substances. So if you're a bit squeamish, probably not for you. So then we had this whole intriguing thing with these two FBI agents. One is like Evan Peters, and them is sort of investigating as to, is this some sort of terrorist thing? Have they like been swallowing like some explosive? Are they like, you know, trying to go around blowing people up, but it doesn't really fit with these really beautiful people and their behavior beforehand and all this kind of weird stuff. And over the course of the show, we basically discovered that as always, billionaires have created this substance, this injection that basically reworks your DNA effectively, I guess. And you kind of go into this cocoon type thing. And then when you come out of it, you're younger, beautiful, fit and healthy. Any ailments that you may have had have completely been eradicated, but you're just, you know, you're the most optimum version of yourself. You're at, like, everybody's like sort of supermodels effectively coming out of this thing. But the problem with it is that it has this, at the moment, it has this sort of finite time limit, and then basically all your cells will just spontaneously combust, and this is why these people are exploding. So they're still working on it at the moment, like to how can they have like boosters, or how can they stop this thing from like burning out effectively. Problem is, one of the employees who's working there has a crush on one of the other employees. They're good friends, and he finally builds up the courage to ask her on a date, and then he finds out that basically she's engaged, and he's like crushed. So at this point, he decides to steal some of this serum and take it, and again he becomes this, like say, amazing version of himself. But he also gives it to a colleague who's a trans woman. And this has sort of been left as a bit of a cliffhanger at the moment. So all we sort of see is that she ends up taking this serum, and when she wakes up, we just see her arm, and it's a very, you know, because this sort of trans woman has these conversations with her colleague, and she's still very masculine looking, and she says it right. She goes, "I don't look feminine. I don't look, you know, I'm on the journey. I'm taking the hormones, but you know, I still don't look the way I want to look." So when we just sort of see this sort of really effeminate arm with like feminine nails, and that's basically all we see of that character, and they're not brought up again in this season that we know of. But the problem is with this version, or this because it's kind of like you're injected like with a virus, and it's the virus that changes your cells. It can be sexually transmitted. So you basically have sex with someone, within a few hours you're burning up, you've got this temperature, your body starts to change, and it's incredibly painful. And you can't say you go into this kind of cocoon thing, but when you come out, you're stunning and gorgeous. But obviously, because it's sexually transmitted, it's starting to be part. And the problem is that the people who are getting this aren't getting the subsequent treatments, and hence why they're exploding. So the billionaire who's like funded all this is completely corrupt. He starts off as the guy that plays Kingpin and ends up as Ashton Kutcher, as you do. So he's basically trying to kill everybody that's been exposed to this sexually transmitted version of this virus, because he obviously he wants to be able to charge for this, which they call the beauty. Plus he doesn't want the secrets coming out and the side effects that this will basically make you explode. So you've got the FBI agents trying to figure out what's going on. One of the FBI agents gets decides, has a one night stand with this guy they're in Italy, and she ends up going through this, and then sort of catches back up with her partner and kind of explains what happens. So now they're kind of like pulled into it, and they know what's going on. So we've got this whole sort of series about how this, I guess it's a bit of a modern commentary on our obsession with youth and beauty, and what happens if you mess with the natural order of things. Again, you've always, all billionaires are bad and mad, apparently. I know. Some seems to do some good stuff. I don't know. I'm sure we'll find out when the rest of the Epstein files come out. But, this kind of commentary that being that wealthy just kind of corrupts you. And when isn't enough wealth enough? They've already billionaires, and they're doing this so they could be trillionaires by selling this virus, even though they know if at any point you can't continue to pay for it, you're going to explode. They know this, but obviously there's no scruples or morals. So I didn't realize, but I thought this, because it's a Ryan Murphy show, and they tend to be a bit one and done. So I thought this was like a one and done, but this is actually season 1. So the finale sort of ends again on a bit of a cliffhanger, as Evan Peters' character ends up sleeping with his partner to get infected so he can change and then kill Ashton Kutcher's character. But something goes wrong, and then they might have to try and work out, and he's basically given another drug to reverse what went wrong, and it kind of ends with him just starting to come out of his cocoon, but we don't know, does he look like he did before? Is he deformed? What is he? What's happened? And it kind of ends there. So I think it's a very mixed season 1 for me. It started off very, very strong. Like I say, first episode, opening 10-15 minutes of this beautiful supermodel running around killing people and then exploding. It's pretty good hook in. I think it's 11 episodes in total, and in fact the last sort of 4 or 5 were gradually getting shorter and shorter. Like they were sort of like just under an hour, I think, the initial episodes, and then by episode 8 it went down to like half an hour. So it did feel like they were just trying to drag this out to get to 11 episodes. I think it would have been much better if they'd done 8 episodes. It did really feel like they were sort of dragging things out towards the end to hit 11 episodes for some reason. I don't know. Some episodes definitely hit better than others. Like I say, some of it just definitely felt like more like filler, or they were just sort of treading water, or just sort of going over the same sort of thing, like almost like a whole episode of them being captured, being held, then released, and then on to the next episode. Not a great amount happened. I think there's enough in season 1 that I would want to watch initially season 2 to sort of see where the story goes. I don't think they can do more than 2 seasons of this. I really don't. If they try, I think, yeah. I mean, like I say, they should make season 2 shorter, definitely. I'd say it's I think it's worth a watch if you know its limitations going into it. But I am intrigued enough to find out how all this concludes. But I'd be really concerned if it's like 11 episodes to conclude it. It only feels like you need another 2 or 3 episodes to finish this story. So be interesting. Say if it is based on a series of comics, I could be completely wrong. I mean, there could be a lot of story there. I don't know. And like I say, we don't know what happened to this trans character. They just I assume they've deliberately been parked, that they're going to come into it, or maybe they just got forgotten about. I don't know. But no, it was, as obviously good acting, good strong cast. And I do generally like Ryan Murphy, but his stuff can be a little bit hit and miss. That Grotesquerie last year, again, very strong start, really interesting, tailed off towards the end, and the ending was just so disappointing. It's like, it was all a coma dream. It's like, what? So And Ryan Murphy, he's doing a lot of stuff at the moment. We just saw with Netflix in the last 8 games wasn't very good. His monster series kind of gone off the boil a bit. He's back involved with American Horror Story, I think. He's doing the love story piece on Hulu with JFK Jr. and Beckett. So he's over a lot of things right now. And he is co-writing this show with somebody else. But I think, they need to be, a bit more critical, tighter, and maybe, do hour episodes, but a shorter amount over the course of the season. So we'll see where that goes. Again, love to know your thoughts on The Beauty. For me, it was a very up and down season. Not awful by any stretch of the imagination, but strong start, bit of a weaker end, I think, to season 1. But let's see where it goes. So let me know, as always. I think that's about it. I've waffled on for long enough, but I'd love to know your thoughts on everything I've discussed today. Anything you're looking forward to that's coming up? I guess the only thing I haven't talked about was like Fallout season 2, which kind of came and went. I really enjoyed season 1. It was a bit Marmite for people. Season 2 was definitely not as strong. Most of it just felt like filler episodes, just getting to the point that Lucy could get back with her dad, and the rest in between was a bit nah. Again, wasn't awful. I watched it all the way through, but really not as strong as the first season. Walter Goggins pretty much carried the whole thing, and there just really wasn't a lot of chatter about it. So again, wasn't awful, wasn't like, oh my god, what am I watching? But the characters I didn't really know what to do with in season 1, they still really didn't know what to do with in season 2. The whole thing with the kind of the brotherhood, they still don't really seem to know how to weave that into the story. So I think season 2 was okay, bit of a letdown. Have to wait and see what happens with season 3. So again, let me know about Fallout season 2 for you. I am going now. Thanks to everybody, as always, for tuning in, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe. And again, welcome to the new subscribers. It's great to have you here. Finally hit that over 100 subscribers, so thank you everybody. I'm very, very grateful. I know I'll be back soon, certainly with my Project Hail Mary review, and if anything kicks off in the week or I stumble across something else that I want to come and chat about, I will be here. So you take care now, and I'll see you soon. Goodbye.